listening to Watchman on the Pod. All right, we're going to pick back up in our Septuagint reading. The Old Covenant, commonly called the Old Testament, Volume 1 from Charles Thompson, and we are in Exodus chapter 21. It is written, "And these are the rules of rectitude which thou shalt set before them. If thou purchase a Hebrew servant, he shall serve thee 6 years, but in the 7th year he shall go out free without ransom. If he came in alone, he shall go out alone. But if his wife came with him, his wife shall go out with him. And if his master hath given him a wife, and she hath borne him sons or daughters, the wife and the children shall belong to the master, and he shall go out alone. And if the servant shall answer and say, I love my master and my wife and my children, I will not go away free, his master shall bring him to God's court of justice, and there lead him to the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. When any man selleth his daughter to be a handmaid, she shall not go away as those who are in bondage go. If she please not her master provided, he betrothed her for himself, he shall let her be redeemed. But he is not her master to sell her into another family, because he hath broken covenant with her. But if he betroth her for his son, he shall deal by her accordingly to the privilege of daughters. And if the son take another for himself, he shall not deprive her of food and raiment and her marriage rights. And if he do not these three for her, she shall go away ransom free. If anyone smite another and he die, he shall be put to death. But if he was not a voluntary agent, but God delivered into his hands, I will appoint for thee a place to which he who hath killed shall flee. But if anyone lie in wait for his neighbor to kill him insidiously and flee, thou shalt drag him from my altar to put him to death. He who smiteth his father or his mother shall be put to death. He who curseth his father or his mother shall be put to death. He who stealeth any of the children of Israel, and having got him in his power, selleth him, or if he be found with him, shall be put to death. If two men quarrel, and one smite the other with a stone or his fist, and he dieth not, but is confined to his bed, if the man rise and walk abroad on a staff, he who smote him shall be acquitted, but shall pay for his loss of time and expense of his cure. If a man smite his manservant or his maidservant with a staff, and the servant die under his hand, vengeance shall be taken by a judicial process. But if the servant live a day or two, let no vengeance be taken, for he is his money. If two men fight and strike a woman with child and miscarry of an embryo, atonement shall be made by a fine, according as the husband of the woman shall with a judicial decision lay upon him, he shall pay. I think I said that wrong. If two men fight and strike a woman with child, and she miscarry of an embryo, atonement shall be made by a fine, according as the husband of the wife shall with a judicial decision lay upon him, he shall pay. But if the child be completely organized, he shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. But if a man smite the eye of a manservant or the eye of a maidservant, and it become blind, he shall set them free for their eye's sake. And if he beat out the tooth of a manservant or the tooth of a maidservant, he shall set them free for the tooth's sake. If a bull gore a man or a woman, and he or she die, the bull shall be stoned to death, and his flesh shall not be eaten. But the owner of the bull shall be held guiltless. But if the bull hath heretofore been accustomed to push with his horns, and this hath been made known to his owner, and he hath not shut him up, if he kill a man or a woman, the bull shall be stoned, and his owner also may be put to death. But if a fine shall be laid upon him, he shall pay as a ransom for his life whatever they lay upon him. And if the bull shall gore a son or daughter, they shall deal with him according to this law. But if the bull shall gore a manservant or a maidservant, he shall pay their master 30 diagrams of silver, and the bull shall be stoned. If any man open a pit or dig a pit and do not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good. He shall pay the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. If any man's bull gore the bull of his neighbor, and he die, they shall sell the live bull and divide the money, and they shall divide the dead bull. But if the bull be noted for having been heretofore accustomed to push with his horns, and this hath been made known to his owner, and he hath not shut him up, he shall be fined bull for bull, and the dead bull shall be his. Chapter 22. It is written, if any man steal an ox or a sheep and kill or sell it, he shall pay as a fine 5 oxen for the ox and 4 sheep for the sheep. If a thief be found in the act of breaking in and be struck and die, he who struck him is not liable to death. But if the sun was risen upon him, he is liable and may be put to death. If a thief hath no property, let him be sold for the theft. If the thing stolen, whatever it be, from an ass to a sheep, be left alive and found in his hand, he shall be fined double. If any man cause a field or a vineyard to be eaten, and shall send out his cattle to feed upon the field of another with the produce of his own field, he shall make restitution. And if he shall cause a whole field to be eaten up with his choicest field or his choicest vineyard, he shall make compensation. If a fire break out and catch in thorns and consume corn on the threshing floors, or on the stalk, or in the field, he who kindled the fire shall make compensation. If any man deliver to his neighbor money or furniture to keep, and they be stolen out of the man's house, the thief, if he be found, shall be fined double. But if the thief cannot be found, the owner of the house shall go before God and be examined on oath whether he may not in some manner have accepted wrong touching the deposit of his neighbor. On every supposed act of injustice touching an ox or an ass or a sheep or raiment or any kind of deposit which is lost, whatever it may be, the cause of both parties shall come before God, and he whom God pointeth out shall pay his neighbor twofold. And if a man deliver to his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it be hurt or die, or be carried off by an enemy unknown to any one, there shall be an oath of God between the parties, that he hath not in any manner accepted wrong touching the deposit of his neighbor. And the owner shall thus be satisfied, and the other shall not make it good. And the other shall not make it good. I don't know why they're barking. But if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution to the owner. And if it be torn by wild beasts, he shall bring the owner to the prey, and shall not make compensation. But if anyone borrow of his neighbor, and that which was borrowed be hurt or die, or be carried off by an enemy, and the owner be not with it, he shall make compensation. But if the owner be with it, he shall not make it good. And if it be hired, he shall have it for the hire of it. If any man delude an unmarried virgin and lie with her, he shall be paying a dowry purchase her for a wife. And if her father absolutely refuse and will not consent to give her to him for a wife, he shall pay the father in money to the amount of the dowry paid for virgins. You shall not protect sorcerers. Every act of bestiality you shall punish with death. He who sacrifices to any god save to the Lord alone shall be destroyed by death. A stranger you shall not injure, nor shall you afflict him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. A widow and an orphan you shall not afflict. If you in any wise afflict them, and they cry to me, I will hear their voice, and my wrath will be kindled, and I will slay you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If thou lend money to thy brother who is near thee and in want, thou shalt not be rigorous with him, nor charge him interest. And if thou hast taken the mantle of thy neighbor as a pledge, thou shalt restore it to him before the setting of the sun, for it is his covering. This mantle is the only covering of his nakedness. In what can he sleep? If therefore he cry to me, I will hear him, for I am merciful. Thou shalt not revile gods, nor speak evil of the rulers of thy people. The first fruits of thy threshing floor and of thy press thou shalt not withhold. The firstborn of thy sons thou shalt give to me. Thou shalt do the same with thy calf, thy sheep, and thy ass. 7 days it shall be with the dam, and on the 8th day thou shalt dedicate it to me. You shall be men holy to me, and you shall not eat what is torn by wild beasts. You shall throw it to the dogs. Chapter 23, it is written. Thou shalt not countenance an idle report, nor conspire with the unrighteous to be a false witness. Thou shalt not be with the majority in wickedness, nor join with the multitude to shut up justice. In passing judgment, thou shalt not be influenced by compassion for the needy. If thou meet the ox of thy enemy or his ass going astray, thou shalt turn it back and restore it to him. And if thou seest thine enemy's ass fallen under his burden, thou shalt not pass it by, but shalt raise it up with its load. Thou shalt not wrest the judgment of a poor man in the trial of his cause. Thou shalt keep aloof from everything unjust. An innocent and a righteous man thou shalt not slay, nor shalt thou justify a wicked man for the sake of bribes. Bribes thou shalt not receive, for they blind the eyes of them who see and pervert judgment. You shall not afflict a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. 6 years thou shalt sow thy ground and gather in products thereof. But on the 7th thou shalt give it rest and let it lie fallow, that the poor of thy people they may eat, and what they leave let the wild beasts of the field eat. The same thou shalt do with thy vineyards and thy olives. 6 days thou shalt do thy work, but on the 7th there shall be a rest, that thy ox and thy ass may rest, and that the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may repose. You shall keep all that I have said to you, and make no mention of the name of strange gods, nor let it be heard out of your mouth. 3 times a year you shall keep a festival to me. The festival of unleavened bread you shall carefully observe. Oh, wow. Let me say that again. 3 times a year you shall keep a festival to me. The festival of unleavened bread you shall carefully observe. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I have commanded you, at the time fixed in the month of new things. For in that month thou didst come out of Egypt. Thou shalt not appear before me empty. Thou shalt also keep the festival of the ingathering of the first fruits of thy labors employed in sowing thy field, and the festival of completion at the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors from the field. 3 times a year all thy males must appear before the Lord thy God. For when I have driven out the nations from before thee, I will enlarge thy borders. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, nor shall the fat of my festival remain till the morning. The dedications of the first products of thy land shalt bring to the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not boil a kid in the milk of its dam. Now behold, I send my angel before thy face, that he may guard thee in the way, and bring thee to the land which I have prepared for thee. Take heed to thyself, and hearken to him, and disobey him not, for he should not withdraw from you, for my name is upon him. If you will hearken diligently to keep this voice of mine and do whatever I command thee and keep my covenant, you shall be to me a peculiar people above all the nations, for the whole earth is mine. But you shall be to me a royal priesthood and a holy nation. These words you shall deliver to the children of Israel. If you will hearken diligently to my voice and do all that I command thee, I will be an enemy to thy enemies and an adversary to thy adversaries. For my angel shall go before thee as thy leader and conduct thee to the Amorite and the Chittite and the Pharezite and the Canaanite and the Girgashite and the Ivite and the Jebusite. I will exterminate them. That's pretty powerful. Thou shalt not worship their gods, nor serve them. Thou shalt not do according to their works, but destroy utterly and break in pieces their pillars, and worship the Lord thy God. I will bless thy bread and thy wine and thy water, and turn away sickness from you. There shall not be a man childless, nor a woman barren in thy land. The number of your days I will completely fulfill, and I will send terror before thee, and confound all the nations to which thou shalt go, and cause all thy adversaries to flee before thee. And I will send hornets before thee, and thou shalt drive out the Amorites and the Evites and the Canaanites and the Chettites from before thee. I will not drive them out in 1 year, lest the land become a waste and the wild beasts of the earth multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them away from thee until thou art increased and canst possess the land. And I will establish thy boundaries from the Red Sea to the Sea of Philistine, and from the wilderness to the great river Euphrates, and deliver into your hands those who are settled in the land, or drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt not make a treaty with them and their gods, nor shall they dwell in thy land, lest they cause thee to sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, they will be to thee a stumbling block. Chapter 24, it is written, then the Lord said to Moses, Come up to the Lord, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and let them at a distance worship the Lord. And let Moses alone approach near to God. As for them, they shall not approach near, nor shall the people come up with them. So Moses came and told the people all the words of God and the rules of rectitude. And all the people with one voice answered and said, All the words which the Lord has spoken, we will perform, and we will be obedient. Then Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. And rising early next morning, Moses built an altar at the foot of the mount with 12 stones for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent out the young men of the children of Israel, and they brought up whole burnt offerings and slew young bulls for a sacrifice of thanksgiving to the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and poured it into bowls, and the other half of the blood he poured out against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. Thereupon Moses took the blood and scattered it towards the people and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you touching all these words. Then Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the Senate of Israel went up. And they saw the place where the God of Israel stood, and what was under his feet was like a pavement of sapphire, and in clearness like the appearance of the firmament of heaven. And of these chosen men of Israel, not one uttered a dissenting voice. Now, when they had appeared in the presence of God and had eaten and drunk, the Lord said to Moses, Come up to me on the mount and stay there, and I will give thee the tables of stone, the law and the commandments which I have written to be promulgated to them. Thereupon Moses arose with Joshua his attendant, and they went up to the mount of God, having said to the elders, Remain quiet here till we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If anyone hath a controversy with another, let them go to them. Moses then went up with Joshua to the mount, and the cloud covered the mount, and the glory of God descended on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the seventh day, the Lord called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like fire blazing on the top of the mount in the view of the Israelites. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and ascended the mount and remained there 40 days and 40 nights. Chapter 25, it is written. And the Lord spake to Moses, saying, Say to the children of Israel, Take offerings from all who may be willing, and these you shall take as dedications to me. And this is the offering which you shall receive from them: gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and scarlet yarn and cotton thread and goat's hair and ram skin, dyed red, and skins of a violet color, and incorruptible wood, and oil for giving light, and spices for the anointing oil, and for the compound incense, and sardine stones, and stones to be engraved for the ephod, and the robe which cometh down to the feet. And thou shalt make a sanctuary for me, and I will appear among you. And thou shalt make everything for me according to what I show thee on this mount, according to the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its utensils, so shalt thou make them. Thou shalt make the ark of the testimony of incorruptible wood, 2 cubits and a half the length, and a cubit and a half the breadth, and a cubit and a half the height. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without thou shalt overlay it. And thou shalt make it a rim of gold, whelked and waved round, and thou shalt beat out for it 4 rings of gold, and fasten them to the 4 corners, 2 rings on one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And thou shalt make staves of incorruptible wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves and the rings on the sides of the ark, that with them the ark may be carried. The staves shall remain immovably in the rings of the ark. And thou shalt deposit in the ark the testimonies which I give thee. And thou shalt make a propitiatory, a lid of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half the length, and a cubit and a half the breadth. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of turned gold, and place them at the 2 sides of the propitiatory. They shall be made, 1 cherub at one side, and the other cherub at the other side of the propitiatory. Thou shalt make the 2 cherubs at the 2 sides. And the cherubs shall have their wings stretched forth above, and shall overshadow the propitiatory with their wings. And their faces shall be towards each other. The faces of the cherubs shall be towards the propitiatory. And thou shalt put the propitiatory upon the ark, and into the ark thou shalt put the testimonies which I give thee. And there I will make myself known to thee, and speak to thee from above the propitiatory, and from beyond the 2 cherubs which are on the ark of the testimony, touching all that I give thee in charge to the children of Israel. Okay. Thou shalt also make a golden table of pure gold, 2 cubits long, and 1 cubit broad, and a cubit and a half high. And thou shalt make for it a rim of gold, whelked and waved around. And thou shalt make it for it a border of a handbreadth all around. And to the border thou shalt make a whelked wave all around. And thou shalt make 4 rings of gold, and fasten the 4 rings to the 4 sides of its feet under the border. The rings shall be for the places to build the staves, to hold the staves, and the rings shall be for places to hold the staves, so that with them they may carry the table. And thou shalt make the staves of incorruptible wood, and overlay them with pure gold, and with them the table shall be carried. And thou shalt make its plates and its incense vessel and its libation vessel, and the cups with which thou shalt pour out libations, all of pure gold. And on this table thou shalt lay the loaves which are to be in my presence before me continually. Thou shalt make also a candlestick of pure gold. Thou shalt make it a turned work. Its shaft and its branches and the cups and the knobs and the lily ornaments shall be of one piece. And from its sides there shall issue 6 branches, 3 branches of the candlestick from one side thereof, and 3 branches of the candlestick from the other side, with 3 cups beaten out in form of almonds, and a knob with an ornament like a lily on each branch. And so on the 6 branches issuing from the candlestick, and on the shaft there shall be 4 cups beaten out in form of almonds, and for each branch knobs and ornaments like lilies of the same piece. The knob under the first pair of branches issuing from it, and a knob under the second pair of branches issuing from it, and so under the third pair of branches issuing from the shaft, and on the shaft 4 cups beaten out in form of almonds. Let the knobs and the branches be of one piece. The whole must be turned out of one piece of pure gold, and thou shalt make the 7 lamps for it, and place the lamps so that they may give light in one row, and its snuffers and its snuff dishes thou shalt make of pure gold. All these utensils shall be a talent of pure gold. See that thou make them according to the pattern shewn thee on this mount. And that ends that reading. I was hoping it had a way to carry it. That's the only piece of furniture I found in the tabernacle that didn't have like little rings to carry it. I don't know how they carried it. I have no clue. Anyway, all right, keep your eyes on Jesus and your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your heart and my heart, so we will not sin against God or be deceived. Have a great day. Bye-bye.